Is 40 too old to start jiu-jitsu? Seems to be like this common search term on Google. BJJ over 40, or training jiu-jitsu at 40, 40 plus jiu-jitsu. Don't know why it's 40. Never seems to be 50, 60, 70. I'm sure there are search terms for that, but 40 seems to be this magic number that everyone seems to think is too old to start jiu-jitsu or to be doing jiu-jitsu. Don't know why. It used to be life begins at 40. Now all of a sudden 40 is too old to be doing anything. I'm sure the same applies for other sports. Maybe it's football or tennis or running. Is 40 too old to start running? I don't know, because I've never searched for those things, but certainly with jiu-jitsu it is a common search term, so much so that, you know, there's been lots of instructionals for jiu-jitsu for 40-year-olds. Roy Harris has done one, Stephen Whitty has done one from SPG, Bernardo Farri has done one, Tom DeBlas has done one. I think theirs was called Old Guys Jiu-Jitsu or something like that. Old guys, if you're 40 or over, you're an old guy. Whatever the case, 40 is definitely not too old to start jiu-jitsu. It's not too old to be continuing jiu-jitsu and keeping up training. Definitely not too old. I started jiu-jitsu probably around about 32, and then I kind of took a rest for a few years because life got in the way, so I didn't train for a while, and then I came back to it when I was about 42, I think, something like that. So I was coming back to jiu-jitsu as a white belt at 42, and I'll be honest with you, it was pretty hard. Now, I've always had this idea in my head that I'm young, youthful, I can keep up. For the most part, I probably could. And you might have the same idea. I'm 40, I'm young, I'm strong, I can keep up with these young guys. And maybe you can in a round, maybe you can in 5 rounds, maybe you can for the whole evening. Maybe you can 2 or 3 times a week. But at some point it will catch up with you. At some point you will get injured because your body is just not able to do the things that a 20-year-old body can do. Your bones are weaker, your joints, your ligaments, your tendons are going to get damaged much easier because they are older. It's obvious, although it might not seem so to some people, even myself. I probably thought, I can do it. You can't. You just cannot train to the same level of intensity and the same frequency as someone who's half your age and not pay for it. 100%, you just cannot do it. You might think you can, but trust me, you can't. What you can do though is you can just train to a level that fits in with your age and your body, your own personal capabilities. Okay, so if that means you can train twice a week, then that's what you do. If that means you can train 3 times a week, then that's what you can do. Even if you think you can do 4, 5, 6 times a week, then I think you should probably reconsider that, whether you should be doing that, whether you feel like you can do it or not, because you will at some point have burnout, you will at some point get injured, and then you will have to skip training for however long it takes to recover. I'm guilty of doing it myself. Even just now after Christmas, I took 2 weeks off at Christmas. I was training pretty hard before Christmas. I came back after Christmas, not done anything, so I thought I'm getting straight back into it. Train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, coaching, wrestling, Thai boxing, grappling, all of those things all in a week. And by the end of the week, I couldn't move. I was lay on the couch and I couldn't move. Didn't help that I had the flu. Didn't help that I've got a compromised immune system anyway. But a combination of all those things meant that I was out of action. And not just for that day, but for like probably about 8 days, 8 or 9 days. Absolutely wiped out. And that's from someone who would class themselves as quite an intelligent grappler, an intelligent martial artist, a smart martial artist. Clearly not, because I overdid it. And anyone can do it. I'm a black belt. You think I'd know better, but I didn't. I overdid it. As a white belt, if you're just starting jiu-jitsu, you're going to be keen, you're going to be raring to go, you're going to want to do as much as you can. Trust me, you will get injured, you will burn yourself out. So just be super smart and follow the advice of people who know, people who've been there. Even me now, follow this advice, be smart, don't overdo it. You need to look after your diet. It's so important to make sure you're putting the right fuel into your body. You know, don't be eating crap every night. Again, I've been guilty of that in myself in the past, eating lots of crap food. I would easily fall into that same habit now, but I'm just trying to be more disciplined. But I'd easily do it. But make sure you're having a good balanced diet. Get the right macros, carbs, protein, healthy fats. Make sure you're eating lots of protein, lots of oily fish, lots of hydration. You know, you need to keep on top of your water. Again, I'm crap at that myself, but I'm trying as much as I can now to get like at least 2 liters of water a day, but I need probably 3. Imperative that you get good hydration, not only for, you know, keeping your body like lubricated and hydrated, but it helps with your rest and recovery as well. So good solid diet, good rest. You know, you need to get to bed early, consistently at the same time if you can. Get a good solid sleep. Again, I'm crap at sleeping myself, but I'm trying all sorts of different ways to improve my sleep. Again, it's so important for your training and your recovery. Warm-ups are so important. You know, obviously you should be doing that as part of your class anyway. Your coach should be running a warm-up. If you find you need something on top of that, then do a little warm-up yourself beforehand. You know, you work on what you know needs working on, whether it's your hips, whether it's your, you know, your knees, whatever it is. You know, you can do a little bit before class. Cooling down and stretching off is 100% one of the most important things. And again, it's something that I'm guilty of not doing as much as I should do. I'm trying much more this year to be, you know, doing that at the end of every class. Some classes or some coaches don't do it. They might just end the class after a technique or something. Some do, but not all of them do. So if your class is like that, where you don't do a cool down or a stretch off, then make sure, again, you do it in your own time before, you know, you get ready to go home or you set off home in the car. Nothing worse than not doing a cool down or a stretch off and then getting in the car feeling great because your body's muscles still warm and, you know, you've got that sweat. And you get home and you get out of the car, especially if it's cold, and then you walk to your house and you get in and then you're just like, seize up. And then especially in the morning, you just cannot move. So make sure you stretch off after the session. And the last thing is make sure you're doing something in between your training sessions to supplement it, whether that's, you know, soft tissue release or massage or yoga, saunas, steam rooms, cold plunge. Anything and everything you can to help your body recover in between your training sessions. Just keep doing something and then you will feel much better when you do your next training session. And finally, I think don't overdo it. I said it at the beginning, but don't overdo it. Don't do too many classes. Make sure you're getting good rest in between classes. If you do a Monday class, maybe do a Wednesday class, or maybe take 2 days off and do a Thursday class. Then maybe do a Sunday, whatever it is, but, you know, make sure you're getting a good amount of rest in between each classes. And just be smart. You know, if you're training with that person who's 20 years younger than you, or someone who's 10 kilos heavier than you, or someone who's, I don't know, a higher belt than you, and they're putting it on you a little bit, just point out, look, I'm new, I'm a little bit older, please be gentle, don't hurt me. It might seem obvious if you're with someone who's 20 years younger that you are older than that person, but that young person might just notice that you're older, but they're not gonna think that deeply about it. Like, okay, this guy's 40, I might need to be a little bit careful. I might not need to use all of my strength, all of my energy. I might need to be a little bit more gentle with him. Again, it's not that obvious to the younger person, right? So point it out to them. Hey, mate, my name's Simon. Nice to meet you. You know, I'm new to the game, or, you know, I'm older, but, you know, just be gentle with me because, you know, I'm likely to get injured much more easily than you do. If you point it out and they still, you know, going a little bit too hard or a little bit too rough, or you feel like you're getting injured, or you feel like you're using too much strength, or whatever it is, then just, you know, again, politely point it out. And if it happens again, then speak to your coach. Your coach should be aware of this anyway, especially if they're a high level coach, brown belt, black belts. They should be aware of the situation. But if they're not, point it out to them. If your coach does nothing about it, then maybe look for a new coach. But I think most coaches probably, you know, deal with this regularly when they get someone who's older in the gym. So just point it out. So that's it, guys. You know, just be consistent with your training, doesn't matter how long it takes for you to get to that next step, you know, whether it's a stripe on your belt, whether it's the next colored belt, whether it's, you know, blue, purple, brown, black, whatever it is, doesn't matter how long it takes. You know, I keep seeing these videos or posts about BJ Penn getting his black belt in 3 years. I've seen it on all sorts of different BJJ groups, you know. Brilliant. You know, that is fantastic. That is one hell of an achievement. But you've got to bear in mind that BJ Penn was probably training from being a very young man, maybe in his teens, early 20s, whatever it was, probably teens. He was probably training at least twice a day, maybe even more sometimes. He was probably training 7 days a week because he could, whether that was because he had the time, the resources, the money, the youth, whatever it was. He was probably training 30 hours a week, probably even more, who knows, but probably 30 hours a week. You're training maybe 1, 2, 3 hours a week, so you can't compare yourself to BJ Penn. And don't think because you're 40, you're older, you need to put in more effort in order to get your black belt sooner because you're old and, you know, you're not going to have time. You've got plenty of time. Chris Houter, combat base, he always says you're going to be somewhere in 10 years. You might as well be a black belt as well. That might be a little bit longer if you start jiu-jitsu in your 40s. You know, you're going to be somewhere in 20 years. Why not be a black belt as well? You're going to be somewhere in 30 years. Why not be a black belt as well? Doesn't matter if it takes you 10, 15, 20, 25 years, 30 years to become a black belt. Just measure yourself against yourself. Don't compare yourself to what other people are doing and how other people are progressing. Certainly not compare yourself against younger people in your gym, because when you see them getting the next belt and you're not, it's probably because they're training 2-3 times more frequently than you are and they're able to do it. So just don't worry about what they're doing. Focus on what you're doing. Do all those things, and you know, there's no reason why you can't train in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s and beyond. If you found it useful, click that thumbs up button. There's loads more videos like this coming to this channel, whether it's BJJ, whether it's health, fitness, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you again in another video.